Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving straight into something I know many of you have experienced and probably have some strong opinions about. Open plan
Yes,
offices.
Storrumskontoret.
Yeah,
And often that whole idea of free seating gets bundled in there too, doesn't it?
it really does. And let's be honest, the general feeling you often hear is, well, they can be noisy, distracting, just not great for actually getting focus work done.
That's definitely the common perception many people hold, yeah. A lot of folks think individual offices are the gold standard and open
Mm.
plan is just flawed.
Exactly. So, our mission here today isn't just to rehash all those usual complaints, though we acknowledge them. We want to dig a bit deeper for you.
Right. Move beyond the simple good versus bad argument.
Yeah. We've got some really interesting insights here from a couple of experts. They offer quite different, contrasting perspectives, but they're both really thought-provoking.
We do. First up, there's the viewpoint from behavioral expert Morten Menster.
Yeah, yes, from Finance Verbundets Magazine Finanz back in January this year.
That's the one. And he didn't hold back at all. He essentially argued that open plan offices are, his word was rubbish.
Rubbish. Wow.
Yeah, said they significantly harm productivity, mostly because of the constant interruptions.
Okay, that makes sense. The interruptions argument is a common one.
He even pointed to studies, showing how much time it actually takes for you to regain focus after you've been disrupted, even by something small like someone asking about lunch plans.
Right, right. So Minster paints this picture, which I'm sure some listeners can relate to, of people trying hard but constantly getting pulled away by distractions, meetings.
Exactly, and he connects that to job satisfaction, too, how it can really take a toll.
Okay, so that's one clear
Mm.
perspective. Open planning is bad for focus and productivity.
Pretty much sums up his main point.
Mhm.
But then, and this is where it gets really interesting, we have a counterpoint
Okay.
from indoor design expert Lene Becker Bang. She wrote a follow-up piece in Magazine at
And
Finance.
your take was different.
Quite different. She argues that open plan offices are actually far better than their reputation.
Hmm.
But, and this is the crucial bit for everyone listening, only if companies implement them correctly.
Ah, the implementation detail.
Exactly. And if they move away from what she calls unnuanced and old-fashioned views about workspaces.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Lene Becker Bang's core idea. She's not saying all open plan offices are great then.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Her main point, the key thing to grasp, is that you can't just make these sweeping statements. It all depends on how they're set up.
How they're used.
Yes. And crucially, how companies and employees actually use the space. She really stresses letting go of those old views. It's often the mindset, not just the layout.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's more than just knocking down walls and throwing everyone together.
Definitely more than that. Becker Bang, she's been CEO of LAIKA Design since 2010. They specialize in customized functional workspaces. She's a big advocate for activity-based work environments.
Activity-based working.
Yeah. She sees that as the way forward, especially now, post-pandemic, with more hybrid work, more digital meetings. Things have changed.
Okay, activity-based. For listeners who aren't familiar, what does that actually look like in practice? What does it mean?
Well, the basic idea is that the office isn't just one big room with rows of identical desks anymore, where everyone does the same kind of work.
Right.
Instead, it becomes this dynamic environment, different zones designed for different activities.
So like quiet zones for deep focus.
Exactly. Quiet zones, maybe some collaboration hubs for teamwork, proper meeting rooms, maybe even more social areas for informal chats.
Okay, so a much more deliberate, varied use of the space. Moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach, it sounds like it might suit how people actually work better.
That's the argument. Becker Bang says that traditional open plan often stems from an industrial mindset.
Industrial mindset, how so?
Like it was designed for individual production. You sit down, do your task, leave. But that's just not how most knowledge workers operate today, is it?
No, definitely not. Our work is usually much more varied.
Right. You need different settings throughout the day, sometimes quiet, sometimes collaboration.
That really clicks for me. I know on any given day I might need a quiet corner to write something, then a space to brainstorm with someone, then a private spot for a call. Being stuck at one desk for all that feels, yeah, outdated.
And here's something really interesting. LAIKA Design, her company, did an experiment.
Oh,
Yeah, they put cameras in 10 partner offices. Employees knew about it, of course, and filmed for 2 weeks.
and what did they find? Something surprising.
Very surprising, I think. They found that workers in these individual offices were interrupted, on average, 3.5 times more often than they thought they were.
Get out. 3.5 times more often than they realized in their own offices.
Yep. Think about that. It really challenges that common assumption, doesn't it? That your own office means guaranteed quiet time.
It absolutely does.
Wow. And Becker Bang's point here is key. Often, in those single offices, there aren't really clear agreements or norms about interrupting.
True. People just pop their head around the door.
Exactly. Or the phone rings, or an email notification pops out. You get pulled away. So the perception of peace doesn't always match reality.
That's a fascinating point. A physical door doesn't automatically equal focus if the culture around interruptions isn't there.
Precisely. Now, something else to clarify is the link between activity-based offices and free seating, because people often mix them up.
Right. They assume activity-based automatically means hot desking, no assigned
Oh,
seats.
yeah. But Becker Bang is clear. They are not necessarily the same thing.
Okay, so you can have an activity-based setup without forcing everyone into free seating.
Absolutely. She actually observes that often the best results come from a mix of fixed and flexible seating.
A mix. That sounds sensible.
Yeah. She acknowledges there can be really valid reasons for some employees needing a fixed desk. Maybe their specific role, special equipment they need.
Or even just personal preference, I suppose.
Could be. The main thing is flexibility. Tailoring the space to actual needs, not just enforcing some rigid no fixed desks rule across the board.
That sounds much more practical, much more human-centered, finding that middle ground.
And one final point Becker Bang raises, which is really important economically too, is about how much office space goes unused.
Unused. How so?
Well, think about it. The average knowledge worker isn't at their desk all year round. There's vacation, sick leave, parental leave.
True. Plus meetings away from the desk.
Exactly. Lots of time spent in meeting rooms. And then add in the desire for hybrid work. She mentions data showing about 75% of employees want to work from home 1 or 2 days a week.
Right. That's a huge chunk of the workforce wanting flexibility.
So you add all that up, and Becker Bang really questions the efficiency of companies maintaining these huge, expensive offices full of desks that are empty a lot of the time,
Based on old habits, essentially.
based on old habits. She suggests activity-based designs with more shared resources and adaptable spaces are just a much smarter, more cost-effective way to use office real estate now.
Especially in this new era of hybrid work. That makes a lot of financial sense, too.
It does. It aligns the space with how people actually use it.
Okay, so let's just recap the main thread here for everyone. We've got Morton Minster highlighting the very real downsides of poorly done open plan offices. The noise, the interruptions, the productivity hit, those are valid concerns.
Absolutely valid. Can't ignore those experiences.
But then Lene Becker Bang offers this, well, more optimistic view, or at least a nuanced one.
Yeah, nuanced is the key word. Her argument really comes down to it's not the concept of open plan that's inherently broken. It's often the execution and the thinking behind it.
The effectiveness depends on strategic planning.
Strategic planning, understanding how work actually happens today, and embracing this shift towards activity-based working that supports hybrid models.
So the key takeaway for our listeners isn't really about choosing sides open plan, good or bad.
No, exactly. It's about understanding that a well-thought-out, well-managed office space, whatever its layout, is one that genuinely supports different kinds of work.
And acknowledges that people might want to work from home sometimes too. It needs to cater to focus and collaboration.
Precisely. It's about creating an ecosystem, really, not just a room full of desks. Moving beyond that simple open versus closed fight.
Which leads us to a final thought, maybe something for listeners to mull over. Considering all this, what specific practical changes could a company actually make?
Yeah. What could they do to optimize their current space, whether it's open, mixed, or even mostly closed offices?
Right. How can they better support both that deep, focused work and the collaborative stuff in today's world? Beyond just arguing about walls or no walls.
That's the real question, isn't it? Something to definitely think about.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.